This is probably a bad idea, but the whole point of this channel is to live out loud, to share the journey as I'm going through it. And even though there's a high likelihood that people will misinterpret what I'm going to say, it's something I experienced yesterday and it only felt right to share it because it's part of the journey. So I'm going to do my best to explain this and present this in a way to reduce the odds of it being misinterpreted. But I am aware that it's a possibility, and recording this video is risky as a result of that because if people misinterpret it, they could get offended or they could, it could have repercussions on the channel itself. But I'm not doing this to grow the channel. I'm not doing this to be famous or anything like that. Like, I'm doing this to share the story because I'm a storyteller. This is who I am. So it would just feel wrong to not record this and not share this simply because there's a chance that people might get upset or a chance that it might negatively impact the channel. So that's why this might be a bad idea, but I'm still doing it anyway. So before I get into that, let me just kind of share a story that happened yesterday. And that's kind of going to give you an example of why this might be a bad idea and why this might be misinterpreted by some people. So yesterday, my wife and I were talking, and she asked me, "How are you doing today? Are you better or worse than yesterday?" To which I answer, honestly, because I'm always honest, today is worse than yesterday. And what I mean by that is just in general terms. It's not hugely worse than yesterday, but it's a little worse. So yeah, it is technically a worse day than yesterday. Unfortunately, she reacts as if I said this is the worst day ever. I'm on my deathbed. It's horrible. Everything about this day sucks. And I'm confused. I don't understand why she's reacting this way. But as we have a conversation, I try to explain and make her understand what I'm trying to say. I start to understand something. See, the thing is, in English, we have two words. We have the word worse, which can either be something general, as I used in this example, or it can be, it can have a range. It can be, oh, it's a little worse than it was. It's much worse, mediumly worse. So there's kind of that sliding scale. And then there's the word worst, which is the absolute worst version possible of something. So I'm like, how is this confusing? How is this not coming across? Because I'm trying to say, yeah, today is worse than yesterday. And she's interpreting it as today is the worst day ever. And as we have a conversation, I try to explain, I realize, oh, okay, in Spanish, there aren't two separate words for that. There's only one word. And because of that, it causes confusion. And, in the end, everything was fine. I was able to somewhat explain, like, no, today is just a little worse than it was yesterday. Not a horrible day by any means. Things are slowly, progressively getting better, even though there are bad periods throughout the day and bad days throughout the week and things like that. So, anyway, the whole point, the reason why I'm sharing this story is because it's the perfect example of how something can cause confusion even though we're trying to say the same thing, and it should be very simple and very easy. In this case, it's a language barrier. When it comes to the video and what I'm going to share in this video, it's more of an interpretation barrier, an online barrier of fact that I'm pre-recording this on a video, so there can't be that back and forth for me to explain if anything is confusing to someone who's watching. But yeah, this story of what happened with my wife, I find is the perfect example of why recording this video might be a bad idea. And the reason why this might be a bad idea, and what I experienced yesterday, as you know, I spent about 4 days where I didn't respond to any comments simply because I did not have the mental bandwidth to deal with any of that. Unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on how you look at it, one of my videos during that period had a lot of views. I think it's up to 15,000 at this point. So there's a lot of comments. I think when I started responding to them yesterday, there's maybe like 400 comments that I had to respond to on multiple different videos. So very overwhelming task. And of course, when you respond to that many comments at once, there are a lot of comments that repeat themselves. Not exactly, but it's multiple people saying very similar versions of the same thing. As an example, on that video that got a lot of views was the video where I'm just like, I can't handle the pressure anymore. I just need to release. I need to vent. I need a fucking break. And, in that video, a lot of people commented like, you should go to the ER. And the thing is, I appreciate that. I completely understand that it comes from a place of caring, a place of love, a place of concern, that every single person who left those comments just wants the best for me, want to make sure that I take care of myself, that I do what's best for me. So I completely understand that. However, from my perspective, when I see dozens or maybe even like 100 comments like that on a single video, and I'm just going through the comments and I'm having to respond to everything, it just becomes very intense, especially when it's something that I've repeated multiple times throughout my videos, and I will repeat it now just to make sure we're kind of on the same page. And that is that at this point, I have spent enough time in the hospital and in the emergency room to know and be able to judge for myself when is appropriate to go and when is not appropriate to go. So for me, I know 100% it's not necessary for me to go to the emergency room. It would be a waste of time. I would go there, I would spend the entire day in the emergency room, they'd run a bunch of tests, and the most likely outcome would be, sorry, there's nothing we can do for you, just go home, rest, this is gonna pass with time, take pain pills to manage whenever you need to, and good luck with everything. The other possible option, even though the odds of that happening are much slimmer, would be they admit me to the hospital for a couple days. And honestly, that is not something I want. Even though, okay, it might be a little better because they can give me certain things in the hospital that I can't necessarily get at home. And maybe it would alleviate the pain a little better than I could do it here by myself. But the thing is, I just don't enjoy being in the hospital because there's always that energy of, well, I mean, if you spend any amount of time in a hospital, you know what I'm talking about. Like that energy of, people are there because they're sick. Some people are actually dying. A lot of the people working there don't necessarily love their job, even though they're doing it to help people. It's not necessarily a healthy, happy, positive environment. So for me, I much prefer being home and yes, enduring a certain amount of pain and coughing and things like that, knowing that at least I'm home, at least I can relax, I can watch TV, I can do the best that I can do to manage this situation. Whereas in the hospital, I'm just lying there for days on end. And even though the symptoms that I'm experiencing might be a little better, it's not worth it being surrounded by all that negative energy, by all that sickness and illness and death, and also just being bored out of my skull. Like, I've done that often enough to know that for me, unless a situation is very, very extreme and I just can't handle it anymore, it's much better to stay home than to go to the ER or go to the hospital. Plus, something else also I just want to put out there. There seems to be a lot of people who misinterpret what I say in my videos, and their assumption is that, please don't take offense to this if this is you, by the way. I as I said before, I appreciate all the comments. I know it comes from love and concern and everything. But there often seems to be this underlying theme, this, how should I say this? This implication that I'm just an idiot who's staying home, doing nothing, not really taking any medication unless I absolutely have to, not telling my doctors anything, and just suffering in silence. And to me, that is just completely ridiculous and dumb. Like, why would anyone believe that? And I'm probably wrong in the sense that most of you who leave comments regarding that gives that impression. I'm pretty sure that's not what you think. But that, to me, is how it comes across. And I'm like, I keep my pivot nurse updated on every single change that happens. She's in constant contact with all my different doctors. So, like, we're very communicative. And whenever there's, any issues or anything like that, she's going to be able to talk to doctors who can prescribe me different types of medication for pain relief, for coughing, for, whatever it is, for, nausea and throwing up and things like that. And it's like, they're doing the best they can. And I am keeping them up to date. I'm not suffering in silence. And hopefully no one has that impression, but that's just how it feels like sometimes. That some of you think I'm just a complete idiot suffering in silence, not telling anyone. That is not the case. You don't have to worry about me. I always do what's best. And I always keep my pivot nurse and my doctors updated on everything that is going on. So yeah, I just kind of wanted to put that out there. And I realized I already went over time, so I'm probably going to, make a longer video than normal, but whatever. I feel like it's important to share this. So yeah, like I always do what's best for me. So I appreciate all those comments, especially people who are super concerned about me and my health and my well-being and everything, and that I don't have to suffer needlessly and everything. But it's like, I honestly, in the past, I would make it a point to respond to every single comment, whether it's positive, whether it's negative, even when it's like some religious person trying to convince me that I need to surrender to God or Jesus and whatever. And it's like, even though I don't have those same beliefs, and even though they're trying to force their beliefs onto me, I understand it comes from a place of love and a place of caring. And because of that, I always made it a point to respond and always be as polite as I could. I eventually stopped responding to very negative comments, or sometimes I just embrace it and just kind of punch them in the face of oh, okay, you're saying I should just accept my fate and give up and die? Cool, thanks for announcing to the world that you're a fucking asshole. Sometimes I do that just because it's kind of fun, but mostly I ignore those types of comments. But comments, as an example, the ones I was saying before in the beginning of this video, when people were saying hey, go to the ER because they're concerned about me, and I understand that it's out of concern, out of love, out of wanting me to be happy and healthy and pain-free and all those things. It's just I know for myself that not going to the ER is the right option, and I just don't have the energy, the mental bandwidth to write 3 paragraphs in every single comment to respond and explain what I took this entire video to explain. And it's I don't have the energy for that. And I just want you to know that I feel like it's getting to the point where obviously I can't respond to all comments. And if I don't respond to your comment, it's not that I don't value it, or I love every single person that watches, subscribes, comments. I appreciate all that. And the last thing I want to do with this video is discourage people from commenting. I love the fact that you comment. It's just as the subscriber count is slowly going up and there's more and more comments, especially when there's a lot of repetitive comments, it's just I don't have the time and the energy to be able to respond to all those comments and explain things. So it's I just want you to know, I appreciate every single comment. And I'm really grateful that you take the time to leave those comments, that you care about me, that you love me, that you pray for me, that you want the best for me, you don't want me to suffer. I appreciate that so much. But it's just this journey is about me going through this experience, experiencing what I need to experience, learn from it, grow from it, become the version of myself I'm meant to become. And sometimes that just means being in a shitty situation that sucks, that's painful, and there's not necessarily anything I can do about it. Because yeah, okay, the doctors want to help, they want the best for me, but sometimes there's just nothing they can do. The breathlessness and the coughing, it's yeah, okay, we can do a few things to slightly alleviate that, but at the end of the day, this is a result of the radiotherapy. All we can do is just wait, and eventually it's going to diminish and hopefully go back to normal. But there are just situations that are difficult, that sucks, and you just got to bear through it. And to me, it just makes more sense to be at home and be able to, watch TV and eat the food I want to eat and sleep in my own bed than be in the hospital and be surrounded by that negative energy and, just be bored out of my skull for days on end and stuff like that. And so it's these are conscious decisions that I make. So I appreciate every single comment. It's just, Unfortunately, I'm probably not going to be able to answer all the comments anymore. So, I'm going to do my best to respond to as many as I can, but please, first of all, I encourage you to keep commenting, keep sharing your opinion. I do not want anyone to feel like I'm saying don't comment, don't share your opinion. That's the whole point of this, is for people to authentically share their beliefs, their opinions, and everything. And if you want, I encourage you, like, have conversations in the comment sections. It's just I might not always be able to participate in those conversations, to respond specifically to comments. So I am going to continue to read the comments for as long as I can. I am going to continue to respond to most of them for as long as I can. But as, time and time goes on, especially when I'm going through difficult periods like this, it's going to be very difficult or nearly impossible for me to respond to every single comment, and maybe not respond to the level that, the commenter deserves, like the answer, the detail, the length, all that. Like, I might not be able to do that anymore. And I'm sorry for that, but it's part of the journey. I knew it would come eventually. And once again, I just want to say, like, wow, this is a long video. I just want to say I'm really grateful for every single person who comments and cares about me and prays for me and all those things. I'm so, so grateful for that. And the last thing I want to do is discourage anyone from commenting or anything like that. So please keep doing what you're doing. I just want you to know that sometimes what you do out of love makes my life more difficult. And I'm not saying that because I want you to stop commenting. Please comment. Please share your opinion. Please have conversations. It's just, I might need to ignore certain comments. I might not be able to participate in certain conversations or respond to certain comments. It's just part of the experience I'm currently going through, part of the fact that the channel is growing. It's part of life, really. Things evolve, things change. So I wanted to try to explain this as best as I can. By now, you probably understand why in the beginning of this video I said this is probably a bad idea, because there's a possibility that people will misinterpret this and maybe be offended by it. And once again, that is the last thing that I want. That's not what I'm trying to do, but I'm aware it's a possibility. So if you got offended by this, I'm sorry, that was not my intention. Once again, I appreciate every single person. It's just, this is something that I have to do. So once again, appreciate all of you. I'll continue to share my story, and hopefully this will not get cut off at 10 minutes on TikTok, because that would really suck for people who watch on TikTok instead of YouTube. But it is what it is, part of life. So, all right. I think I'm done. I think I covered everything. And I'll see you tomorrow. Hopefully today's a better day so far. It seems somewhat good. Obviously still coughing, still having slight breathing issues. Every single time I talk about coughing, I end up coughing. So yeah, anyway, hopefully today will be a good day. We'll see what ends up happening. But for now, it could definitely be worse. So thank you for taking the time to watch this video. I know it's much longer than my normal videos, but it felt important to share this. So thank you once again, and I'll see you probably tomorrow. And now, moment of truth. Am I going to miss the button?